was quite a weekend, wasn't it? Quite a weekend of matches, of results and stories that came out of those results as well. And when you look at it, Sunderland came back from the dead right at the very end up at the Stadium of Light to get themselves a draw 2-2 against Arsenal. Martin Keown, Arsenal Invincible, in studio with Simon and myself this morning. Did Sunderland do a bit of a blueprint in some ways, Martin, as to how you get something out of a game with Arsenal?
Well, we shouldn't be surprised let's give them great credit for what they did, the way that they play, the energy that they play at, and the crowd, the belief. It's all part of the story when you go there, and you've got to try and overcome that. I mean, I watched it back again last night, and we were kind of like 35 minutes in. The ball had a headache, obviously, both teams like knocking it long.
Yeah.
So many stoppages, no rhythm really for Arsenal. They didn't really get their foot on the ball. All credit to Sunderland for that. Granit Xhaka was playing like a man possessed, absolutely. And then the young lad, Ballard, was the one ex-Arsenal player that actually struck the first blow. And he was quite awesome in the game, both from an attacking sense. But that's all credit to Sunderland. And these are things that Arsenal are going to have to come up with, Jim.
Have we seen Gabriel and Saliba, knocked around a bit like that before? Not really.
I think there was a few Arsenal
knocked
players.
Out of their game.
I didn't see anyone get knocked out. I saw a few players knocked to the floor, but they got up again, and they took the game to Sunderland in the second half. It was a completely different match. Sunderland sat very deep, Jim. Played with basically a 5 and a 4, one up top. I like their system. They're able to get everybody back behind the ball. They will press high as well at times. Great deal of energy, and they will go well. I mean, they're performing, Jim. No one would have expected to see what Sunderland have done. 14 changes in the summer, huge amount of a turnaround at the football club. No one more important than Granit Xhaka, by the way, and of course the manager who implements that. So Arsenal, I think might look back at this, Jim, as actually a good point in the end. I know Arsenal are desperate to win games, but overall, I think Sunderland is going to be an interesting game for everybody else to go there and see how they get on.
But Sunderland had Arsenal's number, didn't they? To a certain extent, just as Bolton did when you played.
They went a very physical approach. The referee allowed quite a lot to go. The very first booking in the match was against an Arsenal player, which was contentious. It depends what side of the fence you're sitting on. I was obviously enraged by that as an Arsenal man, former player, but I respected what Sunderland were trying to do. I really like the way they've come up and just said, you know what, we're not going to try and pass the ball out from the back, which they can do at times when Granit tells them to, because he's there to suggesting to everyone, right, keep it. Okay, go long. He's telling everybody, orchestrating on the pitch. I have not seen anything like that, Jim, ever before from a player who's so important. He has to stay fit, Granit Xhaka. If he doesn't stay fit, they will slip down the table.
Yeah. I mean, hats off to Sunderland, isn't it, Simon?
Oh, very much so.
What an absolute tilt they're having at it.
Very much so. And this boy, Dan Ballard, popped up in the playoff semi-final against Coventry in the 123rd minute and got them back into a situation where they could get to the final. No one expected them to beat Sheffield United in the final. They got through that in a game which arguably Sheffield United were better. And this managerial appointment has been a revelation. And what you've got is a hell of a support base up there that's currently behind their side, and they're enjoying this moment. And there's been other sides that have come up, and I just mentioned Sheffield United, that have come up and confounded the Premier League for the first season. And then the Premier League reacts and starts to work out what you can and can't do. The intensity will get you so far. Granit Xhaka has been a revelation of a signing. I used the word twice in a sentence, but it has been that to some extent, because B, he's been utilised in such a role that is so influential, and they thoroughly deserved the result. They went, you're not going to let. They didn't play, and I do like the idea of teams not having to. They're almost like, it's almost like some religion now that you've got to play a certain way. You've got to play out from the back, and if you don't play out from the back, then it's heresy. And now what they're doing is they're going, well, we don't have the capability of doing that. The best thing we can do is make the best version of ourselves.
I've listened to this podcast or this analysis now for 3 minutes. Nobody has talked about Arsenal defensive injuries or offensive injuries, or how the injuries affected Arsenal's game. Mr. White, Simon Jordan, Martin Keown, nobody has said anything about our injuries and how the injuries made Arsenal a bit weak, therefore allowing this Sunderland to bully us somewhat. Nobody has said that. They say that these people don't know that we were missing Gyökeres, who is pivotal to the way Arsenal play. And remember that this season we've already changed the way we play to fit Gyökeres' style. And because Gyökeres was not there, we went to our default settings and allowed the defenders to now double mark Trossard and Bukayo Saka. Why are they not saying this? Or maybe before the video finishes, we'll hear whether they will say it, because it is very, very key. There is no way you will analyze Arsenal versus Sunderland and not talk about the injuries Arsenal suffered before this game. That's just not much.
That was make it difficult for Arsenal because Arsenal are a physical side. Arsenal can put it about a bit. And I don't mean that directly.
They're a physical side. So what happened? Why did we not feel that physical nature of that Arsenal in that game? How do you expect Merino to battle Ballard? Like, why are you not saying that?
I mean, in the game against Liverpool, they lost 1-0 away. They were so much more powerful than Liverpool in the first 25 minutes.
But Simon, what have these Sunderland fans created at the Stadium of Light? Are we now looking at the stadium, the venue, which has become one of the most difficult for any travelling team?
But I think we have to say this, right? That they now have a team that they can get behind. And they have a team, it's the chicken and egg situation, isn't it? What makes you play well?
Yeah.
And what makes you cheer from the sidelines? Every time that Arsenal had the ball at the back, bang, they went after them.
Yeah.
One way. Every time they made a tackle, the crowd were out of their feet as if they'd scored a goal. It's infectious.
I also think it's that passage of time where they went in such decline. And it was the object of such ridicule that they dropped down from the Premier League. Ellis Short decided to disappear, up his own backside and not be interested in the football club whatsoever. Yeah. They dropped down in the league into League One, and now they're back, and they appreciate being back. There was a period of time where Sunderland were in the Premier League. Peter Reid had a good period of time with them. Steve Bruce had a good period of time with them, put them 7th in the league, and Bob Murray was their chairman. It perhaps got a bit laissez-faire. Now they're really bubbling again because they appreciate where they are.
They limped into the playoffs. I went to watch them play. The second last game of the season against Oxford United.
They didn't limp into the playoffs.
Their fans were booing them. Their fans were booing them because they lost.
They didn't limp into the playoffs. What they did was they had a problem in the playoffs because they were there so early. That they weren't going to catch the top two. They were stuck. They were almost marooned into the playoffs, and they actually went for this terrible run of form going into the playoffs, didn't they? Where they hardly won a game, and suddenly found their mojo again for the big games.
And they let
you know what I love though? It was also suggested that Sunderland moved the advertising hoardings closer to the pitch to combat the long throws from Arsenal. You got to love that. If they did that, chapeau.
I don't think it's true, Jim, is it?
It's true.
What do you think is true? What evidence have you
Changing
got?
the dimensions of the
I think there was still.
Souness did it and admitted it in his time at Rangers.
Yeah, changing the side of the pitch is one thing, but the advertising boards is another.
It's fine margin stuff.
I still think there was plenty of room to make the throw in.
You know how the game finished though, Martin? Gabriel and Saliba loved defending. You loved defending. When you leave that part of the world on Saturday evening, did it feel like a loss? Will it have felt like a loss for them after all these consecutive clean sheets?
Well, it was such a late goal that would have been a body blow. But you would have looked at it and you go to this, people say it's a rest now. It isn't a rest. It's another international game, isn't it, of major importance. There's only England that are qualified. Everybody else has got to go for it. So it's not a rest. It's just a change of venue and a change of players. But Arsenal will be more than happy, Jim, when you consider they've had 6 away games, Man City 5. They've had some very difficult away games. As we sit at this point, take this breather, Arsenal looking in a very strong position.
Okay. The small matter of Pep Guardiola. Pep, good morning. What an achievement. What a milestone. 1,000 games chalked up as a top flight manager. We're going to look at that next. And also, is it idealistic to suggest that Rob Edwards owed Middlesbrough anything? Because Wolves have come calling. It is 11 o'clock this Monday morning.
No, this analysis for me, RG, no complete. RG, no complete. But we'll give up.